Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Cano23 playing in their T57 Heavy. Now, Cano is going to get an all-time damage record for the T57 Heavy today, so sit back, relax, grab yourself a snack. This is going to be some popcorn entertainment. So, the T57 Heavy, this is an absolute beast of World of Tanks. It has one of the highest damage per minute in the game at nearly 3,100. And now, while it can't use a gun rammer to be able to improve that further, this thing just bursts out damage like nobody's business. The 120mm autoloader on this tank can deal 1,600 damage within 6 seconds of the first shot, meaning that you don't want to sit in front of this thing for even just a fraction of a minute. Now, when you also take into account that it has decent standard pen of 258 and 340 gold pen, yeah, this thing could not only deal fat damage like a TVP can, it also has more than enough penetration to be able to consistently go through the front of vehicles. And this E100's lower plate is no match for even the AP rounds. He says that as he bounces off the second. Now, Cano perhaps should have been using heat there against an E100. When in a matchup like this, you can even see that the heat key is flashing. It looks like Cano is already thinking about reloading heat for his second magazine. And sometimes like the AP shells can be better when you're trying to shoot tanks through the tracks and just avoid their spaced armor. But heat really, for flat surfaces like on the E100 there is going to be absolutely no comparison. So Cano is using vents on this vehicle, bond vents as well. Looks like they really like their T57 Heavy. They're also using bond vertical stabilizers, and that's perfect for this tank because the bond vertical stabilizers reduce the bloom after firing. A lot of people don't consider that vert stabs not only reduce the dispersion when you turn the turret and when you move the hull and when you turn the hull as well, and the bond ones I think are going to be like 27.5% reduced dispersion, which is outrageous, but they also importantly reduce the dispersion after you're firing. So when you're playing an autoloader with a low intraclip reload, being able to reduce the dispersion after firing is tremendous, because if your reticle never blooms out, it doesn't really matter if you have 2.7 seconds aim time. So look, even when Cano23 is firing here, the reticle barely blooms after he fires. You can further improve this with, I think, the penultimate field mod on the T57 Heavy, which further reduces the bloom after firing, I think by 15% off the top of my head. Although, actually, you know what, I got it here. Why don't we take a look? Yeah, 15% bloom after firing. Now, while it actually also improves your aiming speed as well, which is fantastic, but you do have to sacrifice a little bit of the hit points to be able to achieve that. However, when you manage to get clean magazines like this, PZ75 awkwardly misses their rush. Cano actually puts a round onto the back of the vehicle there with heat and finishes them off. And wow, that was a super powerful Chinese heavy that ricocheted their second gold round, and Cano reloaded and put 4 out of 4 in, finishing them off. And that is just what's so crazy about this tank. It's kind of like a VZ55 within that regard, and now the VZ55 has been nerfed, and this one has actually been buffed fairly recently. The T57 Heavy might actually make a resurgence on the server, because previously it really did feel like the VZ55s were giving this thing a huge run for the money. Actually, not just a run for the money, I think they were probably kind of taking all of its pocket money, right? I think the VZ55s were probably bullying the T57 Heavies. However, that doesn't really happen so much now with the VZ being nerfed, having a 2.5 second intraclip reload. And 490 in 2.5 seconds doesn't seem nearly as good as being able to dump out kind of like 800 in 2 seconds. And then also having an extra 2 rounds after that to be able to deliver. And now with the DPM nerf as well to the VZ55, yeah, the T57 Heavy might have its chance to shine inside the World of Tanks. And well, with Cano setting an all-time damage record, it looks like it is already very much summer and the sun is shining brightly. So, Cano has just had a great game so far. Mags on mags on mags, up to 5,300 damage in the first 4.5 minutes. Anyone would consider that this would be a good game of World of Tanks. But as you'll have seen in the title, Cano's not going to have a good game of World of Tanks here. He's going to arguably have the best game anyone's ever had in a T57 Heavy. Well, first round, he doesn't go through the tracks. Second round does. The Object 140 puts one in, and unfortunately Cano low rolls there, meaning that he has to dump the final round into the 140 rather than possibly engaging the Kampfpanzer 07 PE. Now, interestingly, that Kampfpanzer doesn't have any of the field mods. one thing that I would recommend in World of Tanks is when you see people who have kind of like stock hit points on vehicles where the field mods naturally increase their HP, that's a sign of an inexperienced player, or it's a sign of a player who hasn't probably fully set their vehicle up. Because if you do see players like that, they're usually not the sweaty nerds. Although, you know, it's not an exact science. And so don't just bundle into someone because they don't have the field mods, because it might just be a sweaty unicorn on a reroll that might take you for all of your hit points, right? Anyway, the Kampfpanzer doesn't manage to go through the Jagdpanzer, and now Kano is just going to town, aiming at the back there, trying to track the Kampfpanzer with heat rounds still, putting an heat round there to damage the fuel tanks, and again, the perfect mag, even with a fire, and it looks like the Kampfpanzer uses a regular fire extinguisher, fairly quick on the draw there, although not too quick, taking 267 damage before the fire is extinguished, and that was enough, including the Jaeger's ram for it looks like 318, to allow Kano to now just like explode on the damage. And this is where the T57 Heavy is just so darn good. It does just seem to explode on damage totals if it's given the chance. And you know what? Harvesting the entirety of a Kampfpanzer is a good way to explode on your damage totals. Okay, so this game, even though Kano has done more damage than you require to win... Wow, he actually hit there. Did you see? That shot hit the Manticore. That was confident. The Manticore was on half health, and considering that the cap points were reset, either he tracked the Manticore, or he managed to reduce the Manticore's hit points from half health, hopefully, to about a quarter health there. I digress. I was trying to say that, yeah, with this kind of tank really explodes out. And the 8,000 damage that Kano's done, excluding the blind fire that we just saw, oh, brilliant shot there into the top of the Leopard's armor, will be enough to win 9 out of 10 games of World of Tanks. But this isn't one of those 9 out of 10 games. And look, there is the Manticore with significantly reduced hit points, meaning that they did get hit. Kano is going to try and loop one over the ridgeline, and it barely scratches the side of the Manticore's turret, allowing Kano to now pick up 6 kills, and including the blind damage, it will be over 9,000 in this round. So, oh my word, this is not one of those 1 in 10 games. This is like one in the million kind of games of World of Tanks where the enemies are pretty bad, but your team is even worse. So your team got rolled over, and now maybe Kano has an opportunity to do something truly tremendous. Already up to 9,200 damage. One thing that really sucks about the T57 Heavy, however, is that it carries 36 rounds of ammunition. That is not a lot of ammo. And even with Kano being very precise with their marksmanship in this battle, it still just doesn't feel as if they're going to have quite enough rounds to still deal with the 4,800 damage on the enemy team. So they're going to either have to get lucky, hope that maybe the Kranvang or the Gorilla have lost some hit points outside the render distance, or that this Jagdpanzer E100, David Boone on Kano 23's team, is going to put at least one shot in to hopefully give Kano a chance to be able to deal with all the rest. But look at me talking about Kano dealing with all the rest. What are you talking about, QB? The Kranvang can kill him in like 2.75 seconds. The FP405 can one-shot him, and the Gorilla, if it high rolls or gets a fire, is going to be able to do the same thing, and even a penetrating artillery shell could prove the demise of our hero here. So, I like what Kano's doing. He's just protecting the cap circle, and he also realizes that if he's on top of the hill, that the enemies will have to come up the hill, spot the Jagdpanzer E100, which means that right now, he's completely safe. And he's not going to expose the weak side armor of the T57 Heavy. Although, with a tank like this, while it has managed to ricochet 1,400 damage, its armor isn't the best. You really just have to keep your armor towards your opponents and just keep moving, which is kind of contradictory to what most likely you want to do in an autoloader, which is kind of like sit still so your gun doesn't bloom out so much so you can actually get your magazine off. Because without the autoloader, what is the point of a vehicle like this? Well, hello there, GWE100. I guess you expected the T57 Heavy was going to be able to come for you, but all you just became is another snack for Kano now, who has vanquished nearly half of the enemy team, picking up 7 frags. Good communication there with the Jagdpanzer, letting the Jaegeru know that Kano's going to be reloading for only 22 seconds. And that is what happens with this vehicle when you are stacking vents with a premium consumable, with undoubtedly having a good crew. You can really get that reload time down by enhancing the crew skill of your loader. Okay, Kano, take it away, man. There's the Gorilla, and the Gorilla does actually get spotted, I believe, a little bit damaged compared to what they were previously, or maybe not. Maybe it was actually the Jagdpanzer getting hit there? Was it just Kano's hit points, team's hit points that went down? it doesn't matter. Let's focus on what's at hand, and that is that somebody was in the cap circle, with the Gorilla being spotted over down towards the southwest, and the Kranvang there. That means that the FV405 was the last one in the cap circle. So the FV405 was last kind of spotted here. The Kranvang's here and the Gorilla's behind. But this Kranvang is going straight down after the Jagdpanzer. Kano managed to put a clean shot into the side of the Kranvang, finishes them off, picking up their 8th kill of the game, securing a Radley Walters medal, and securing the amount of damage that they've dealt to roughly about 10,500, including the blind fire against the Manticore. Oh my word. But this is where that amount of ammunition that the T57 Heavy carries starts to become awkward. They've got 6 armor-piercing rounds left, a full health FV4005, and 1 heat round that may or may not be necessary in this battle. Okay, looks like Kano is going to take the fight to the enemy team. With 4 minutes left on this game, they want to be the victor, and nobody looks at a draw, right? People want to see wins. People want to see winners. People want to see players playing to win. Big damage doesn't mean anything if you don't have the confidence to also be able to vanquish your opponents. And Kano is going to go forwards, work the ridgeline, and hopefully get into a hold down situation. But when you're playing against a Gorilla and FV405, hold down is not enough in a T57 Heavy. So Kano crests the ridge, has the FV405 in the side, puts the first round in, aims for the hull for the second round, and puts a third round in just as they pull back over the ridge. Beautiful magazine. Now they've only got 1 round of AP left, then 2 AP and a heat. And this is where things get awkward. The Jagdpanzer crests, the FV405 finishes them off, and Kano doesn't have the round to be able to destroy the FV405. Now, the FV405 has 55 hit points roughly, which means that the Gorilla has about like 390. So that means the Gorilla is a 50-50 for Kano to be able to finish off. So it's going to be a roll of the dice. And there's the Gorilla. Kano finds the FV405. The Gorilla misses, 390 hit points now. Will Kano be able to finish off the German tank? It's a 50-50 unless he rams him here. Oh my word, Kano, you do not have long left on the reload, and you can tank a shot from the Gorilla most of the time, but not all the time, especially if there's a fire. And if Kano misses or low rolls, he's going to have an awkward reload here, which will be slightly longer. Oh my god. Kano takes 700 damage from the Gorilla. He actually manages to ram the Gorilla, and that's super important because now the Gorilla has 301 hit points. So unless Kano min rolls their final shell, they should be able to contest the Faden's medal here. And the Faden's medal is one of the rarest in the game for destroying the final remaining tank with the final remaining shell in your vehicle. So unless there is the mother of all bad RNG here, Kano should be able to finish off the German tank destroyer if they can manage to get the shot towards the top. But of course, it's a death match right now. Both tanks down to a 1 shot for each other, and the Gorilla, well, it's not the most dangerous tank in this kind of scenario. The turreted nature of the vehicle and that high pen accurate gun means that if the Gorilla is waiting as Kano manages to come over this ridgeline, it could be really ugly. Where's the Gorilla? Kano doesn't manage to find him. The sirens go off. The pressure must be made. 2 minutes left on the battle. Where did the Gorilla go? Did he go and hide up towards the northeast? Did he go down towards the south? And Kano manages to find him, but he's got a heat round here, so he can't go through the walls. So now he's got to try and find the Gorilla again. Oh my word, the Gorilla falls down the slope, looking above to try and find where Kano was coming from. Kano comes around the corner and times it perfectly, finishing off the Gorilla and pulling off one of the best carries I have ever seen in World of Tanks history. This was the greatest game I have ever seen in a T57 Heavy. It was not only the perfect scenario for the vehicle where you get to brawl and dump in those mags, but Kano also made good use of those awkward magazines at the end. And while, oh man, Kano probably had his heart racing and managed to choke nearly the most important shot of the game, which was against the Gorilla. Thankfully, the Gorilla low rolled. Thankfully, the Gorilla didn't apply the extra pressure against the T57 Heavy while it was reloading. And thankfully, that little bit of ram damage took away all but the worst of RNG's possibilities. What a monster player having a monster game in a monster tank. These are the kind of replays I love to see uploaded. So this was the highest damage that anyone has ever done and uploaded onto the What Replays website, 12,682 for a vehicle that actually has a maximum potential damage of 14,400, excluding if you bounce or if you have to finish off a low health tank, for example. And considering that Kano destroyed 2/3 of the enemy team, there were quite a few vehicles where you kind of waste the damage out of that potential by maybe only doing 50 or 100. So what a series of medals here. The high caliber for the highest damage of all time in the T57 Heavy, a Pools medal for destroying 2/3 of the enemy team, a very challenging thing to do at tier 10, and the Faden's medal for destroying the final vehicle with the final remaining shell in Kano's tank. And even managed to make it a profit as well, with just an outrageous damage total, hitting every single shot that they fired and penetrated 33 out of those 36, showing tremendous marksmanship. And this marksmanship was important because if one of those extra shells hadn't gone Kano's way, this would have spelled disaster and the mother of all heartbreaks. So, Kano 23, congratulations to you on the greatest T57 Heavy game, in my opinion, of all time. 1,961 base experience is insane in a tier 10 tank. This is just an absolute achievement. I take a bow, please, Kano. What a banger of a round. And thank you so much for uploading this onto the What Replays website for the community to enjoy. I knew I had to share it with the community when I first saw it, and I hope all of you out there loved the commentary that I did on this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Monday, I'm going to be going live myself all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, giving you brand new tokens so you can get some fat loot. So come along, hopefully have a few fat games, not like this one, I don't think, but also pick up some swag along the way. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.